Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dynamics Fortnite Fridays.
Where we cover everything Dynamics, great and small. Well, Bart, are the kids back at school yet?
The kids are back at school. We're in meteorological autumn. It is all going well. We've even got a top 10 weather day today.
Yep, we're here in Minnesota. It's going to be like mid-70s, perfect day. So,
I feel like
so
I'm
do you
in
have a joke
California.
for me today?
Oh, it's a good one.
Oh, it's going to be bad. Okay,
Yeah.
what do you got?
All right. So, what do the Louvre and tapeworms have in common?
It's art.
They're
It's like,
both
okay,
parasites.
Paris. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. A little logic. Because I'm thinking Odysseus. That's actually a tapeworm into that. Okay, so I'm all over the board, right? Okay.
What do you got? What do you got?
I have nothing as highbrow as that, right? So, so let's. Uh, what do you call a sleeping cow or a napping cow?
Napping cow.
Yeah.
You got me.
A bulldozer.
If you would have added the male in there, I might have gotten it. I was thinking female cows. All right, good.
All right.
Well, enough groans. Let's get into some things that might be worthwhile to our listeners here. So, Power Platform, Table Designer. So the updated Table Designer is now generally available. I think my click would have jumped right into the browser window. Let's try that one more time. There we go.
There you go.
And the biggest thing is the Table Designer now gives you all sorts of Copilot capabilities if you would like, and you don't have to like start from the homepage. You can just go right to tables. Hey, I'd like a new table. I want to generate it from my Excel list. I want to generate it from describing my new table, or maybe even I want to just create a virtual table. That all these things are now Copilot powered, make it pretty straightforward to get started on a table. But of course, you can still jump in and still do it the old-fashioned way if you want to be a lot more careful about how you create the columns and make sure each one is the right metadata type and all of those kind of things. So lots of good stuff there for you creators to be able to make tables in a more fun way in the maker experience. Power Pages fans should rejoice in that we have now made a nice improvement with a partner, DocuSign, and it's the first of several upcoming ones, I'm sure, because we now have a special place right in the maker portal for Power Pages that says sort of partner solutions that I think will get populated over time. And so if you are a DocuSign organization and you are making Power Pages, that you can now make that document workflow live right on your Power Page and do it all with low code. So it's seamlessly integrated. I was talking about these external apps. That's where DocuSign lives now. I think there will be several that show up over time. And again, once you've got that set up, you can use Power Automate or whatever you want to do to sort of streamline how the interaction works to generate the right documents and surface them back on the page. All pretty nice stuff. And what I really liked is they also looked for different industries and said, well, here's some use cases for government organizations. Here's some use cases for financial services. Here's some use cases for high tech or education or various places, just to give people ideas of how they might go do this. So nicely done. We also get Copilot for process mining. So process mining, I think I've talked about plenty of times. We've got some pretty nice stuff that got introduced about July, and there were demonstrations shown for some of this stuff. But what it really enables is for you to be able to do the analysis using the process mining tools and have Copilot really help then with taking that analysis and be able to not only ask questions about it to understand it better, but say, well, how could I automate this? Or what could I do to improve it? And Copilot will start spitting out recommendations like, well, I think you should create a flow that does this stuff. Or maybe you should have an app that looks at all of the various exceptions so that you've got a list to work through. And it will not only suggest those things, but if you click on it, it'll actually invoke another Copilot in the Power Automate tool, or invoke another Copilot in the Power Apps tool and pass the appropriate prompt based on the data that it just analyzed in Copilot for process mining to start building the app or building the automation without you having to do anything other than just click the button and say, yep, here it goes. And so it's like Copilots layered on top of Copilots to do super cool stuff with what it has understood. So you go all the way from just raw telemetry coming out of a platform like F&O or SAP or whatever else, or maybe you've even done a different type of analysis, but whatever you do when you end up with your process map to do things with, take extra action with all this Copilot capability and not only understand it, but do stuff with it. The thing that's sort of cool is we've gotten really good at building capabilities within our tools and then realizing that different parts of our tools could be very useful if we ripped it out of where it was originally born and made it a standalone thing. We started doing that when we sort of took a lot of Dynamics 365 and broke it apart and made it available as tools in Power Platform with things like Dataverse and model-driven apps. Well, we're doing this again with what started out as just the language of Canvas Power Apps. We then gave it a name and called it Power FX. And we've started doing other things with using Power FX in different places. Well, we've now completely abstracted it. It is generally available as a full-featured open source language that you can make contributions to. It's Power FX 1.0. It's ready for prime time. Use it wherever you would like in production applications, completely supported. Most people will still get at it mostly from Power Apps, but we have Power FX defined columns in Dataverse. You can use Power FX in a Power Virtual Agent. And now that it is completely abstracted, you can see there's Power FX into like C# code that there's an example for, and you can find it on NuGet, and it's got a GitHub repository, and you can just start using Power FX wherever it makes sense. Yeah, build plugins with Power FX. Use it in cards. We've got Power FX quite a few places in Power Platform, but now that it's completely abstracted, use it as a dev wherever it makes sense in your dev projects as well. For customer engagement, one of the things that customer service operations groups are always looking for is, well, we've spent some money or we've tried out a new feature. Is that new feature actually making our people any better? Are they using that new feature? So it's kind of an adoption thing, kind of a did this help thing, in that we have now put together pre-built analytics to analyze whether the copilots that we've turned on in customer service for things like summarizing cases and generating the right text for an email or generating text for a response to put back in a chat conversation or wherever else we're using it to, find knowledge base articles, all that stuff that we have available for copilots. Is it being used? Are the agents actually getting help from it? And did we see any metrics that went down when Copilot was used versus when it wasn't? And so we've got all of this stuff all pre-built. All you really need to do is just jump into it. And it is in kind of a tab in the customer service analytics, is I believe what it's called. Anyway, the built-in customer service analytics stuff now has a new tab to show you the Copilot's usage within your customer service organization and whether it's helping or not. The other big news on the customer engagement side of things is we've announced a little while ago that Dynamics Marketing and Dynamics Customer Insights were going to merge together from a branding perspective and from a licensing perspective, and that has now taken place. That happened September 1st. You can now purchase it, and you will see that reflected in the UI. So if you launched Customer Insights, the customer data platform, it's now called Customer Insights Data, and marketing is now called Customer Insights Journeys, and that's highlighting the real-time marketing capabilities. That if you bought it brand new, that's all you would get is both of those things. If you already had one or the other, you now kind of get both with the license you already had. We're grandfathering in the other half. If you had already purchased both, well, you still get both, and you get the branding and all the investment we're making to continue to bring the two platforms together to make them better and better and better as tightly coupled things with real-time capabilities going throughout. So take a look if you want to see more, but that's really the gist of it. And there's copilots all over Customer Insights now. helps you make content. It helps you find segments. It helps you use natural language to get answers to questions you have about what things are going on in your journeys. It's just got all kinds of pretty cool stuff that you can do with the Copilots in there. So that's really the news across Power Platform and the CE Stack. Dan, why don't you take it away and tell us what's going on more back office partner stuff? Not really partner, back office tools.
When you can see my screen, there we go.
You bet.
So yeah, it was kind of a light week, I guess, end of summer, for a lot of announcements on the Power Plat side. But that process mining, I see a great deal of value to that, especially in the ERP world where we're working, and the updated customer insights is interesting news too. So
yeah, that example they gave in the blog article I pulled up was the procure to pay capabilities from a finance ERP.
Yeah, is fascinating to me. That's what I do every day. So let's start out with what's new in Commerce 3.0.36. So as the last few shows, I've been going through the 10.0.36 updates for finance, supply chain, and a cross-platform. So first of all, let's look in what we have in Commerce. Now, I've been talking a lot about inventory visibility and that inventory visibility service, and how it's like working with outside systems. Now, we've actually done some modifications or some updates into the inventory visibility from the common commerce scale units system. So anything within the commerce, whether it be like an external e-commerce system or the internal one or a POS, we now have that real-time visibility into the inventory across the whole network. That's including not only on-hand inventory, but any commitments or anything else that you have there. So that's really important, especially in a fast-moving commerce world. The next update is some loyalty cards. So loyalty cards are as we all use as a loyalty card. But on this one, we've actually had some different definitions on what we can do with these loyalty cards. So we now have the different card types on that. So you can actually have as a type tender. So you can only redeem only the points that earns. You can actually have it as a contact. So it's like anybody. So Bart might have 3 different cards, and then he's just assigned to each one of those. So you can actually do any of those cards across that contact. You can say, nope, it can only earn cards, but you can't actually redeem off that card. You have to do it on that website, or the card is blocked. So we added some flexibility into that loyalty card management. We've done some updates on that significantly with card management over the last couple of years as well. Now, the next thing is like on order prompting. So if you cancel an order, it's going to prompt the sales associate to validate the information from the cancellation. Who actually is the customer at this point? Now, remember, these are cloud scale units, so actually you might have to draw back into that corporate headquarters to be able to pull that out. So it actually goes out and validates that to ensure that there's not any issues, or if they get, or if they're on like on a call center call, that they validate that they have that information. So if they get disconnected, which happens all the time, that they can actually call them back. So that's just kind of a validation point. An update on the payments with the Google Pay on Adyen, which is our standard payment service that we mostly recommend and use. So now we offer a dedicated Google Pay module, right? So as an alternative just to the Google Pay APIs on that. And so what this is going to do is it's going to give you dedicated module to actually fix some of the structural problems that you had with those APIs, right? And address the limitations that you had with that. So it'll do things like support direct express checkout, like our self-service checkout in the futures now that we have this module within that payment system. The next one's kind of an admin function with the point of sale. So with the point of sale, you can actually use the guns, right, or the point of sale system to actually do receipts from, maybe there was a transfer in from a different warehouse and stuff. But with that commerce scale unit, that can be offline. So that it can be an offline number. And so it may have its own numbers when it's actually receiving those goods against against that inventory that comes in. So what it does is like it makes sure it's like, if those get out of sync, it'll actually sync those back up when it gets online. So you don't, so you don't have any um, conflicts within the next numbering system. There's also been some user interface improvements with that, just kind of rounding corners, some drop shadows, some rollover functions, and it's a better logout function on that too. And then the last thing within the 10.0.36 with commerce is, the barcoding performance improvements, right? So there's nothing worse if you're working for warehouse waiting for that scanner to actually work. And with these cloud scale units, it's like, so if we have to actually kind of go back and forth within that data too often to validate things, it's like it's slow because you have to wait for that latency within those responses. So now what it does, it actually calls back anything older than an hour to actually cache that back into there. So that's going to improve that performance within those scale units. So so that's within commerce. Let's take a look within what's new in Business Central. So a few things in Business Central, and they're mostly under the development section. And I was actually going to go over some August that have been updated. I'll do September and October when they're updated here, maybe on the next show. So it's mostly about some updates into the AL, which stands for application language, which Business Central is written into. So now it's, for instance, it's like, the first thing is like you can get inlay hints to the source editor for parameters and return types. Now, what this does, it's Visual Studio Code that supports like the inlay. So you can actually get an idea of where the source is on that, so you can actually drill back down into it. There's also been some updates for IntelliSense and some hover things. Like, so for this one is like you hover over the label, you can actually see the text string value, so you can actually drill down onto that, right? Um, and then, for this one, it's like, okay, there's a new folder output setting for storing files on AL projects. And why we want to do this, because it's like if you're doing it for like multiple different instances or multiple different systems, we'll put into a different file that can actually be shared from that file onto there. So that's going to help out. So, getting that code is reusable. A few updates on IntelliSense for adding variables to the Visual Studio Code when debugging things. Just like you can roll over what code do I need to put on there. There's a smarter method signature recommendations for IntelliSense. So that will it will prioritize the valid overload within the system. There's some, a secret text to protect the credentials. And what this does is sometimes when developers are testing some things or debugging some components, they'll turn off the blocking for the masking of sensitive data. And so then they'll actually be able to see passwords or sensitive data, maybe some like, Satya's payroll information or executive payroll information that you don't want everybody to necessarily see. So what this does, it'll make sure that secret text is like when you're debugging things are added to the protect the credentials and that sensitive textual values. So your developers won't be seeing that sensitive information. Couple more things. It's like, segment AL code to reduce naming conflicts and spaces. So that way we can actually put that code in a logical and hierarchical manner for those namespaces. So that'll avoid any naming conflicts when you're going through this. And the last thing is it's like show a list of keys while working in the AL code. So basically it's like, it's an IntelliSense to see what's available keys as you're coding on there. So again, a lot of usability functions within Business Central this last update. Now, this next one is kind of near and dear to my heart because one Dynamics, one platform. So Bart and I and Max all know, and I think many, many, many of you do, that they're two different code bases, right? So we have the Dataverse platform, this on the CE platform, and we have, the ERP platform, which is, Azure SQL based on the back end. So they're two different things. And we had to build all of these connectors to actually make them work. Well, we're doing a whole lot more to make this is a one Dynamics, one platform experience. I'll be talking about this next week too. We talk about like the transition to Synapse, to Dataverse on the export to data lake on that. So again, it's like hopefully we'll be hearing a lot more about this to make it a more unified platform as the time goes on. But anyways, I just wanted to make sure that you saw that announcement. I talked a little bit about this in the last show, but there's been an updated article that is like, there's a new Visual C++ runtime required for anything that's 10.0.36 or higher. Now, this is automatically going to be deployed on new deployments for cloud hosted environments. So you don't have to worry about that, but it is backwards compatible. So it's like if you're in an earlier version, probably, 1034, 1035, you can go right here and get this Visual C++ runtime download and get that installed. So there's also a FAQ that you might want to look at and read through. So the next thing is the supply center updates, and the supply center updates, there's a couple here. So if we go into see, I wanted to look at the September updates. Yeah. So first of all, there's a self-service product returns powered by FedEx. And for what this is going to allow, and intelligent order management is going to allow you to go to any FedEx or any of your customers go to a FedEx, scan it and return it without actually having to go to your website. And so that whole self-service powered or the FedEx self-service power is available to your customers. So once they scan it, they get the QR code. It's going to put a return on there, so your system's notified. They don't have to do anything else, and they just drop it in there. It'll be returned back to you as the from your customer. There's actually some new order types onto this that are supports to the business. So this is kind of important. So typically you have like a CO's order, you can do a purchase order or coming soon a purchase order, but now we actually have some different order types that systems may need to read as a back order or pre-order. So we might take this, we can't deliver until a certain date. There's manual orders that are created, and then of course the return orders for that bidirectional integration that you may need for components of it. There's the new real-time inventory dashboards onto this. And so with this, it's like it actually comes up with a couple KPIs onto this. So it'll say it's like, okay, weeks until stock out, the sell rates and other components that you actually want to make into this, and also give you some updates, and you can actually make custom data points to say, hey, we have too much in one warehouse, we're not selling enough in this another warehouse, we need to transfer over this, like, or initiate some action down there. So those functions are new within IOM. And the last thing is there's some new providers. So again, it's like, I'm hoping we get a lot more providers as we go on, but we now have a couple carriers or 3 different carriers, which is JB Hunt and Uber Freight. New logistics for Flexi and Kerber. Some new pricing engines with Flint Fox, which does some really nice advanced pricing and commerce pricing. And now we have Shopify as an e-commerce platform that's integrated into this. The second, Shopify has been integrated into AX before and Business Central, but now it's actually going to be integrated directly into our IOM, which opens up the field for every single different ERP component into that. So some nice updates within Supply Chain Center. And the last thing is the Copilot for Procure to Pay. So this is not going to be released until public preview in January 2024. But it's really the first one that's integrated in through supply chain. And what this does is very much like the planning workbench from the output of an MRP. MRP is going to say, what do we need? How much do we need? Where do we need it? And why do we need it? And when do we need it? And then if there's some disruptions that you may be notified, that it might give you an advance or defer, this order or that order, this is going to be downstream and pegged to that. Well, this is an AI based one that actually says, okay, there's this purchase order date has been changed. It may have no impact, and just notify us like, okay, this is no or low impact. It might be high impact, so it's going to affect some other orders downstream. It'll tell you what's high impact. It'll show you what's downstream going to be affected. Is it a production order? Is it a transfer order? Is it a customer order that this is affecting? And how is it going to do there? And then it also has a co-pilot, so we're able to collaborate with our stakeholders on that, whether that be the customer or internal stakeholder. And we use ChatGTP to actually help formulate that email to be able to communicate to see what we need to do to rectify that problem that we may have. So again, it's like way early release. I've seen some videos on it. Looks pretty cool. Did a little bit of an install on that, and it's again, it's like it's another one of the pervasive uses of Copilot that we have within the system now. So that's what I have for my my content this week, Bart.
Oh, betcha a nickel it's not the last time we have a new Copilot introduction in the next 6 weeks.
I bet you not. It's like, I'll bet you a dime.
Ooh, up in the ante.
I'm not a gambler, so that's a lot.
Exactly, me either. Yeah. Well, good stuff. I don't have much else other than get out and enjoy this day while we still have a nice one out here. It's going to get cold before long in Minnesota.
It is. So before we turn into snowman, let's go get some sun, Bart.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see y'all in a fortnight.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. All right. It sounds like you need to go get